Okay, so here we are. I've got the phone on airplane mode so I won't be interrupted while I'm making a video because I can't use my computer and my camera like usual because of the fact that my computer crapped out while I was gone, and I just decided to start using my phone. So, how's everybody doing? This is Carpo After Dark. Almost every Carpo After Dark series or episode is random, and I tend to make them outside. Usually at times after I've had a couple drinks and I've been thinking and I have something to talk about. But I guess I'll face the camera this episode because I dare not go outside. It's just horrendous out there. But when I say after dark, I guess I should imply, I'm implying that it's after dark. Really, it wouldn't be dark yet if it weren't for the fact that the skies are filled with smoke. So, the office that I'm in right now is the only place in my whole house that doesn't smell like smoke. And it's a good place to make a video about sentience. And the big question of the day is exactly what is sentience, but also what animals, insects, bacteria, fungi are sentient. I should start off by defining that, so I had to write down the definition so I could, be appropriate in giving legitimate definition for it. It's the ability to feel, perceive, or experience subjectivity. Let's take that apart for a minute. Subjectivity, that's the ability to be an individual and see things through your own lens, right? So we have subjectivity and objectivity. Subjectivity is your own opinion. Being objective means you're seeing the bigger picture. Perhaps sentience might just be the ability to perceive objectivity, but I'm not going to go there. It's the ability to feel sensations. But in philosophy, especially in ancient philosophy, the idea of sentience was the difference between thinking and feeling. So, in other words, many animals, insects, even trees feel in their own way and respond to stimuli. But certain animals, including humans, they think as well. Meaning you can plan your future, you can plan, if we think of sentience as the way that it's defined by a lot of ancient philosophers, the only thing that would be sentient on this planet would be human beings. And that's pretty preposterous because I'll just say this, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, got into my, late teens, we had the Discovery Channel. It was the very first channel where you could actually see things about nature. And I watched it constantly. All stoners did. The mysteries they talked about animal kingdom and nature, and the rare animals that they'd captured and the crappy camera work that they'd done. I mean, it was pretty good for the time, but you move into 2015, 2020, now we have watched animals in their habitat with, various trail cameras and set up tripods with amazing high-def video that can show exactly what the animals are doing, as well as doing tests and having the time and the effort to make tests for corvids, which are crows. And by the way, corvids are my favorite birds by far. I mean, eagles, step aside. You ain't got shit on corvids. Crows are so damn smart. And they can do like 5-part puzzles to pull a stick out, to fill something up with water, to float a thing up, to get their food. They can solve puzzles, meaning that, in my opinion, a crow is a sentient being, right? It's not just that, We've seen seals and sea lions and altruism within the animal kingdom, helping one another. I mean, I'll just put it this way, I'm not going to explain and give you definitions. If you don't see that animals are intelligent, then there's no point in me trying to explain it to you. But not just intelligent, but aware of their surroundings. Even the dumbass family dog that people always, oh, it's just a dog. They're not just a dog. They are highly intelligent beings. And they're aware of what you're saying about them. I mean, they know now that dogs can recognize over 200 words. I mean, that's pretty amazing if you think about it. They know what you're talking about if you're using their name in a sentence or whatnot. So, the reason why this became so interesting is I actually posted something earlier on Twitter and YouTube, kind of a half joke of, can vegans, can they eat carnivorous plants, like say the Venus flytrap? Now I know nobody really eats Venus flytrap, and I know people probably don't eat most carnivorous plants. It was a moral dilemma where a person's starving and the only thing they can eat is some deer that they hit with their car on accident. The deer is already dead, the meat's there, they're a vegan, but they're going to starve to death. It's a theoretical situation, but do you eat the meat to save yourself? And if not, if your family is starving and you're all vegans, do you, insist your family eat the meat to survive? Now, anyone who has a heart knows, of course you do. There are situations where you have to, if you're willing to hold your values so strong that you're going to die for them, I'm not going to say that's always a bad thing, but the only time dying for a cause is a good thing is if you're saving another life. That's my opinion. If you're saving a companion, a lover, a friend, a kid, anything, a father, a mother, dying for someone else is altruistic, but dying for a principle when it's harming no one is just dumb. But until you're in that situation, I guess none of us could encounter that. But the idea that there are some plants that actually are sly and sneaky and they wait for animals and they trap them and then they eat them, digest them slowly as they scream and probably suffer. And you think, well, you're not going to blame the plant for that, just like you're not going to blame a raccoon or a possum or a mongoose or anything else for eating any other animal. It's what nature does. But for us, we have these principles that we cannot seem to break. And I get it because, as I said, there's cows. Well, I said it to somebody else. There's cows and then chickens in cages, cows packed in pens. We are disgusted by the way that we handle animals. But I'm getting off topic. Sorry. It made me think a lot about that. Because this goes way back for me to when I was younger. And I've really been into Buddhism most of my life, and I follow most Buddhist principles of do no harm, be light on your feet and on your mind. The idea of Zen, to let things go and see everything as a riddle and as a joke. But there was one question that always bothered me. I heard a story years ago, probably decades ago, about a Buddhist who how Buddhists wouldn't crush even an ant, wouldn't even harm an insect in their environment. And I started recently to see these stories about these Buddhists who were living in apartment complexes in cities. And since they weren't going to harm insects, they refused to let anybody in there to do any type of insecticide or treatment for cockroaches. And the apartments were completely infested. And even any rational Buddhist would say there's a point where you have to keep animals separate from you. It would be the same as a horse or a dog or any animal scratching fleas or mosquitoes, swatting them away or, getting them away from them. It's the same thing. We protect ourselves against, leeches. We protect ourselves against mosquitoes. These things that want to take our goods for their own good. It's unfortunate they have to die, but you can't let your whole world fill up with, a bunch of rats and mice and cockroaches just because you're afraid to exterminate some of them. And that's something I've wrestled with. It all came down to the whole Buddhist not stepping on an ant thing. I'm that way. I ask the ants to go home when they're on my counter. Literally, I've woken up in the morning and I've seen them and they'll scatter when I come out and I'll say, you guys, please, move on, move on. I don't want to hurt them. And they're just ants. But that leads me to a question of whether or not ants are a sentient being. As individuals, maybe not, but did you know that when an anthill loses some workers or loses some soldiers, that other workers can become soldiers and vice versa? And that ants will morph and change into different jobs to fill whatever role is missing. My question is this: how do they know? Sure, they use scents, but how do they know? I mean, they have formic acid and they leave scent trails, but how do they know exactly how many people are there and how many ants are there at any one time doing their jobs? I feel like there's something deeper we don't understand. You can call it God if you want. You can call it sentience. You can call it awareness. You can call it Gaia. Because Gaia is the next question I have, whether the earth is alive itself as a living, breathing organism. And it's not just hippie shit. It's a philosophy that goes way, way back. I mean, people have always wondered this shit. Is the earth alive? It's always maintained itself pretty well. Let's talk about gut microbes, flora, the gut flora that has lived. And you've heard this probably over the last 5 years. I'm sure you've heard somebody say, did you know there's more bacteria in your body than your own cells? And you start to believe it. Well, it's true. There are actually more bacteria. Some people say, well, there's like 10 times more bacteria than our own cells. No, probably not. The recent science says there's at least as many, meaning that you are half something else. Half of the cells in your body are something else other than your cells with your DNA. They do not contain any of your genetic information. What are they doing in there? What are they getting into? It's like, I just love thinking about it, I've talked about the vagus nerve that goes between the gut and the brain and how it connects our gut and brain. We can have headaches if we have a stomach ache. It's the same way when you're going to puke, those kind of things. It's a constant neural connection to the rest of our body and our organs. And as I mentioned, an anthill might be sentient. What about a beehive? These groups of animals, insects. You could also talk about not ants, but termites, termite mounds, and the way that they operate, which I'm not very familiar with. But these are questions that, as I said to somebody earlier, they don't keep me up at night, but they do make me wonder, because nothing keeps me up at night because I'm always smoking weed at night. But I've always been curious about what the limits are, if there are any real natural laws to what humans should eat and what we should respect as sentience or sentient being. And maybe that sounds ridiculous to some people that I've spent so much time thinking about that, but it's important to me because I eat chicken, I eat fish, and I eat beef. I eat all meat, pretty much. I don't eat much pork, but I do eat bacon. I have a steak maybe, I'll just put it this way, I have bacon maybe once a month. I have steak maybe once every 2 or 3 months. I have chicken probably once a week, twice a week, if that. And fish every couple months. And I should probably eat more fish because I actually, fish is not bad if you catch your own fish. But the thing is, I don't eat a lot of meat. But I don't have any problem when I do eat it. Unfortunately, most Americans find meat to be the central part of their diet. Not most, but I should say the central part of a meal you would get from a place. Like, in a lot of countries, the meat is like, 15% of the meal, maybe 20%, and the rest of it's all vegetables. And I'll admit, I'm bad about eating vegetables. So when I eat chicken, I get a lot of protein quickly. I get quick energy. I'm not going to quit eating meat because I don't believe that humans are not meant to eat meat. And that's just my opinion. I don't mean that to anybody who's a vegan. If that's what works for you, I think that's great. I try to be conscious of the meat I do eat. I try to get free-range chicken, but I'm still aware that free-range can mean they're still in a big pen just running around together. Try to get local stuff, but it's hard. We want to eat the best food we can. We're trapped in this paradigm of this is okay and this isn't. And I think it all comes down to really just common sense. If you eat too much meat, you're going to make yourself ill. I mean, humans weren't meant to eat that much meat. But on the other hand, there were times when certain groups, that's all they had. So there may be certain people who can eat a lot more meat than others. And so, to get back to the main subject at hand, what is sentience? I don't know. What inspired me to make this, I wrote some thoughts yesterday about sentience, and then I just forgot about it. Saw an article today about Venus, and they said they found phosphine in the clouds of Venus using a chemical signature. basically they use refraction from these lenses they use will show. I don't want to get in. I can't explain it in scientific terms, but they can look with telescopes that will show them the colors of certain molecules, and they found phosphines, which are only produced by living, living beings. It could be microbes, it could be anything, but they're way up in the clouds in an area that's about Earth temperature, and they said that they might be caused by life. That's enough for me to say fucking right on. 2020 has sucked balls. Everything sucks about it. You know, COVID, protests, fires, politics, everything that's been going on, just hearing that there might be even some microbial life on another planet was enough for me to go right on, you know. But I'm not surprised in the least. I believe there's life everywhere in the universe. And I'd like to make videos about aliens and all that shit one day and my UFO experiences, but the things that I've seen or not seen. But for now, I'll just leave it at that. And I'm always open to your opinions about what you think, you know, the line is for sentience, because I'm very curious to know. The reason, one of the main points I want to make before I go here, I made a video. I've done this several times over the last 5 or 6 years. I think the last one I made was about a year ago, and I made one before that, like several years back. And one was called, like, Are Microbes Alive? And I think one was called Are Viruses Our Gods? Or something like that, back in like 2015. And I was doing a lot of research about viruses and bacteria. And I said, you know, these things have survived on Earth from the beginning of life on Earth. And they continue to flourish. And I thought, when an animal is created, it has many systems within it. Us, for example. It can die out quickly by a huge nuclear blast, whatever it might be. A million things could take out all the humans and have to start over. When it comes to bacteria, most of them can die out, but if even a few survive, they can reproduce and fill the whole planet. They can hide out, they can lay dormant under the soil. Therefore, if God was going to reside in any living matter, I would say that our God might very well be bacteria or viruses, or one and the same, in the way that viruses and bacteria tend to work together, or viruses feed off of bacteria. It takes a certain virus for humans to reproduce. Without one particular virus, humans could not have babies. It's a fact. And many bacteria allow our mental states to remain calm. So my thought is this: if anything is our God, if anything makes us who we are, it would be these groups of these organisms. So my question is, are they sentient? As a whole, are all the bacteria on Earth sentient? And that would be somewhat like a chemical or psychic connection we wouldn't understand. But it sounds ridiculous, and as a philosopher, as a scientific-minded person, I even find it ridiculous. Or sounding ridiculous, but I don't feel like it is. I think the bacteria might be more aware than we think they are, in a different mindset, for lack of better terms. That's all I got. I could go on, but I won't. I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for listening, and see how much time I got here. I don't even know. But thanks to my subscribers, thanks to my patrons, thanks to anybody who tries to give me, you know, any type of advice or uplifting thoughts, because I know that sometimes I can sound like a dick. I'm just a human being. I'm just talking about things that I think about. And, yeah, that's life. Be well. Talk to you later.